What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. It's your host, Dillon Schroeder, back again for another Steelers-specific episode, reviewing the draft class. If you go watch the last pod we did, Gil, Drew, Cam, and myself, we talked through a lot of the draft classes, but I specifically waited to dive deep into the Steelers class until I did the Steelers video. And overall, I'd say I'm pretty happy. I'm happy they didn't force Shedeur Sanders like the national media wanted them to, and they went to build the team. And knowing that this team is going to add quarterback high in next year's draft, and what is supposed to be a stronger draft class, that's never guaranteed. But I think that's the plan for them, and I think that's a good plan. They're going to get a 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th in the compensatory pick system, along with 1 through 7 that they already have. So they're going to have ammo to move up. And I think there's multiple good quarterbacks next year. Cade Klubnik, Drew Aller, Lenoris Sellers, the LSU guy that I can't say his name, Nussmeier. There's a lot of good quarterbacks coming out next year. So, and there's always the surprises as well. So I think that's okay that you didn't force it this year, because that's what they did with Pickett. They forced it, and it didn't work out. So you went with more of a best pick available approach, and I really like that for the Steelers. So jumping in, going through each of the picks here just real quick to briefly discuss my thoughts on each of them. Starting at the top of the draft, Derek Harmon, a defensive tackle. If you've looked at a lot of my mock drafts, Derek Harmon was right at the top of my list there. Needed a D lineman in the first round. There was just too many good prospects to pass up on. And by the time the Steelers were on the clock, Kenneth Grant was already gone, Walter Nolan was already gone. So really you were looking at Derek Harmon and being that number 1 pick. Mason Graham also gone as well. And so, you could have tried to trade down. Maybe if there was more than one on the board still, they would have tried to trade down to get us another day 2 pick, but they didn't pass up on their guy. And Derek Harmon, I think, is a great pick. He's going to fill in great on the D-line. We just got rid of Ogunjobi, so there was a spot open. He'll rotate in and take over for Cam Hayward in a few years, but you got a stud on the D-line, and it was much needed. And, all the talk about quarterback, again, Steelers got crushed in the playoffs because they let up 200 rushing yards to the Ravens, all right? We don't want that to happen again, regardless of who's at quarterback, okay? We can't let up 200 to the Ravens on the ground. So this is a step in the right direction. We'll talk about another addition they made later on. But moving on to my favorite pick in the draft for the Steelers is Caleb Johnson in the 3rd round, running back out of Iowa. The first time I watched Caleb Johnson's tape back in like October or something, I loved it. I mean, he's just explosive play after explosive play. Led the rushing in Big Ten. Big Ten's no slouch of a conference, all right? There's a lot of people on the channel that'll tell you that. And he led the nation or the country, not the nation, not the country, the conference in rushing. Fits fantastic with Arthur Smith's scheme, and he's a lot faster than what the 40-yard dash says. Just an explosive guy, big build too. Like, he's not small, but he's 6'1", 220, and he's got some get up to him. He ran a 4.5 at the 40. So did Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry doesn't have an issue getting long runs. So if he has the lane and he has the footwork to be able to get into space, he can break out some long runs. He's got patience like Le'Veon Bell. He's not Le'Veon Bell as a runner. He doesn't have the pass catching experience, and he's a little bit less powerful than I would say Le'Veon was, and Caleb's got a little bit more long speed than Le'Veon did, so they're a little bit different, but you can see the similarities certainly. I saw someone say Arian Foster. I think that's a really good one for Caleb Johnson, a good comp. I'll be buying this guy's jersey. I've already decided, as long as he picks a good number. I've been waiting for them to release the numbers, but this will be the next jersey. I'm going to stop buying quarterback jerseys, and Caleb Johnson, he's going to be a dog. Him and Jalen Warren, I think Caleb Johnson takes the Najee role and gets a majority of the snaps. Jalen's going to have plenty of opportunity on offense, but Caleb Johnson's just that guy, and I think he's going to be great for this team, for them. So love that pick. In the 4th, picked up Jack Sawyer, Ohio State, Captain Jack. I didn't love him, especially when people were talking about him being in the 1st round. I'm like, no way. I mean, I saw this dude get bodied in the CFP on a lot of snaps by left tackles. He does, though, have that clutch gene. He gets the strip sack in the playoffs to basically seal that game. And he's a good locker room guy. So in the 4th round, sure, and especially with our rotation, he's going to be the 4th outside linebacker coming in after Watt, after Highsmith, after Herbig. And he's just going to be a run defender, and he's probably not going to give you a lot of juice in the passing game, but for the 4th outside linebacker, it'll be fine. So that's an okay pick. In the 5th round, Yaya Black. If you look at my mock drafts, I also had Yaya Black. So Derek Harmon, Yaya Black, and Caleb Johnson were 3 of my guys pre-draft process, and I nailed them. I nailed those 3 picks. So that was good, but he's a big dude. I mean, like 6'6", 330, something like that. Apparently he's got issues on film with like pad level and things. I mean, that's coachable stuff. So you just hope that this guy can translate and be a good run stuffer. That's what we need. And again, that's why we got Derek Harmon. That's why we got this big guy, that Mike Tomlin called an F350, because, that's a little bit bigger than the F150. And, hopefully he can help. We just saw the Eagles do it in the Super Bowl, winning by an elite D-line and pass rush. So Steelers threw a couple darts. I got no problems with that. And then Will Howard in the 6th. This is an excellent pick. So I have to hate on Ohio State because Cam and Gil root for him and are obnoxious about it. Sorry, any Ohio State fans, but you are. But Will Howard, I mean, this guy, he's slow start to the season, didn't play well in the Michigan game, whatever. He turned it on when the lights were brightest, and I mean, I think that's something you can't ignore. And he was making a lot of big plays, and yes, he had NFL talent surrounding him, but you look at the throws, and they're dropped in the bucket. I mean, he's not getting bailed out like what is all over Shadur Sanders' tape is Travis Hunter bailing him out. Will Howard was dropping it in the bucket. So, I mean, for a 6th-round pick, are you joking me? I mean, I feel like that's a steal. I would have got this guy in the 3rd or the 4th. Probably the 4th, preferably, but the 6th? I mean, that is a steal. And, you saw the phone call of him getting drafted. He was just psyched to be a Steeler. So you love that. So, he comes in, he competes for quarterback 3, and we'll see, how he goes. But, again, I still think Steelers go quarterback high next year. But Will Howard could be your Charlie Batch of this generation. I mean, he could be a Steeler backup quarterback for 10 years, make some spot starts and do really well, and just be a great guy in the locker room. So I love that pick. Carson Brunner in the 7th, the 1st of the 7th round picks. Not going to pretend to know a lot about him. I know he's gotten a lot of tackles, and his dad, Steelers scout, Steelers legend. So, I just hope it's one of those things where he earned that spot, and I'm sure he did. But he earned that draft pick, and he just tries to carve out a role as a 7th rounder. I think that's all he can do. And then same with Dante Kent, corner out of Central Michigan, #the MAC, go Eastern Michigan. Explosive guy, punt returner, kick returner. Saw on his tape that he, at one point in time, he led the nation in pass deflections and also led the nation in explosive plays given up. So very boom or bust out of this guy. But I think, he's going to be like a gunner and maybe a backup punt returner if he sticks on the roster. So we'll see. And, late 7th round Flyers, that's what's going to happen. But overall, Steelers 2025 draft, I give it a B++. I don't know if it's perfectly A. I don't want to just be a homer and say, oh, my team got an A, because, I think the board could have broke a couple different ways, and they could have took some advantage of some other things. So I'm not going to call it perfect, but I'm really happy with it. Derek Harmon, dog. Caleb Johnson, dog. Will Howard, dog. So I think, if you get a couple of longer-term players here on this draft class, it's been an issue with some of the prior draft classes. Not a lot of longevity there from the end of the Kevin Colbert era. I think it'll work out. And, the Steelers came into this thing pretty much that Aaron Rodgers is going to sign, and I still think that's the case. But that's a 2025 thing. He'll be gone after this year. You'll see where you're at. And like I said, Steelers are going to pick a quarterback high next year, 2026, when the draft is in Pittsburgh. Not that should matter at all, but it does. It's kind of cool. And they'll draft, hopefully, their next franchise signal caller there. I don't think it's Will Howard. A lot of people immediately was like, oh, Will Howard's the franchise. Give him the keys. He's a 6th-round pick. Let this guy earn it. And if he does, great. But if not, like I said, I think he's going to be your backup for 10 years. So That's all I got today. So if you liked the video, be sure to drop a like, subscribe for more Party Chat Sports content. Comment down below your thoughts if you think I'm wrong, what your favorites were here if you're a Steelers fan, or if you just want to ask us anything. Feel free to do that. So there'll be plenty more content coming your way, I'm sure, in the following days and weeks. And hope you guys enjoyed the draft. I know I did. It was fun. Peace.